shining. It's gonna be a bright, 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 sunshine day. I think I can make it now. The pain is gone. All of the bad feelings have disappeared. Here is that rainbow I've been praying for. It's gonna be a bright, 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 bright sunshine day. Look all around, there's nothing but blue skies. Look straight ahead, nothing but blue I can see clearly now, the rain is gone. I can see all obstacles in my way. Gone are the dark clouds that had me blind. It's gonna be a bright, bright, bright sunshine day. Oh, it's gonna be a bright, bright sunshine day. It's gonna be so bright, oh yeah. Oh, what a bright, bright, bright sunshine day. Oh yeah, yeah.
Well, good afternoon. You caught me. This is Dr. Toni Luck. Welcome again to Getting to the Heart of the Matter. Thank you so much for making my inaugural show such a success. You wrote, you called, you sent me messages. At the end of the show last week, I said I really needed 2 hours instead of 1. And so many of you agreed with me. No, no, no. This is not a hint to Galaxy, folks, for more time, but rather to tell you what a wonderful confirmation it was that Getting to the Heart of the Matter was on the right track. The song you just heard, where you saw me dancing as I'm reading Martin Luther King, is from the great Johnny Nash, who at 80 years old joined the ancestors last week. How grateful we were across the world when Johnny gave us this prophetic, hopeful song at the beginning of the 70s. With this reggae beat and inspiring lyrics, that song would ring in our ears each time we needed to boost our morale, as there was so much happening in the 70s, from the invasion of Cambodia to the social and political changes taking place across Africa, to the emotional breakup of the Beatles, if you can imagine, to Watergate and the death of Elvis. There was no one like the great Johnny Nash. He was a friend who pushed us all to see clearly, and now more than ever, how we need 2020 vision in the year 2020 for hopeful inspiration. As promised today, we will be considering the power to define, unpacking the difference between being for something as opposed to being against something, and the impact that understanding the difference can make in changing our circumstances and our lives for the better. I came across this important distinction a few decades ago when I was trying to understand the truth of the old adage that if one ignores history, does not learn from history, then one is doomed to repeat it. If we look at just the last 500 years of humanity, we will see that many of the things we are dealing with today, we have dealt with before. Whether it is the pandemic of the 1919 Spanish flu, or the cholera pandemic of 1819, or COVID-19 pandemic of 2019. Whether it's wars, rumors of wars, creation of weapons of mass destruction, or police brutality, or drugs, or poverty, or hunger. There are so many massive issues. Whether it's suffering, racism, or sexism, all the isms, causing a chasm and a break in our lives. It seems that the blessings and the benefits of Ubuntu, the guiding principle of our existence, which we discussed last week, is all but forgotten and eludes us more and more each day. I believe that we can no longer ignore the fact that without Ubuntu, mankind is enveloped by greed, selfishness, immorality, pride, egotism, and arrogance. Because we seem to be suffering from generational bondage, and no matter what we are doing to make a difference, whether working to make changes, whether marching, whether protesting, whether demonstrating, signing petitions, writing laws, praying, meditating, fasting, studying, reading the Bible, the Quran, the Bhagavad Gita, the Kabbalah, or even Jonathan Livingston Seagull, we are still plagued by man's inhumanity to man, the strong bullying the weak, the powerful frightening, scaring the life out of the weak. We are seeing such a surge of weapons of mass destruction, whether they're biological, chemical, nutritional. We just have an endless feeling. And I know what you're thinking. No. I did not come to visit Dr. Luck in the middle of the day to hear, and in the middle of a pandemic with millions of people who have been affected and infected, where millions have been put out of work. I did not come to be this litany of craziness, the uncertainty of fear that we are all experiencing because businesses are closing, loved ones are being lost, many have died alone. A pandemic we can't even understand, and some of us are still not sure what it is. Boy, I get it. I almost was so traumatized myself with this list, but I'm confident that if we stay tuned and don't turn away from seeing things as they really are, we will see ways forward that have light and life to a caring world, and we'll be, victorious, and we'll thrive. We will propel ourselves out of the ravages of the darkened past that have negatively affected our present into an emboldened and enlightened future. As we consider history, we find that most times when circumstances and situations need correcting, we create campaigns, demonstrations, slogans, marches, conversations against the very thing that is negatively affecting us. In this way, we begin actually with what we don't want by being against something, such as being against poverty, being against sickness, being against war, violence, being against abuse, hunger, lack, all of which are rooted in fear and in despair. However, of course, we cannot or dare not ignore that we do put our whole heart into these campaigns and exercises, and some good comes out of it. But it is exhausting. Why? Because we never finish. We never complete it. We work on it, it goes away, and before we know it, it comes back. And the efforts that we have done have been lost. Yet surely by now, we should have garnered a great deal of information about how things started to be able to have fashioned a way out of the unfortunate places we continue to find ourselves in. But for some reasons, we have not in any sustainable way. But today is an opportunity for us to make a turn for the better as we unpack the reality of our power to define and look at the way we use our thoughts, our language. We are going to now just take a quick break, and then we'll be right back.
Getting to the heart of the matter is courage.
Make massive moves.
So from the theater stage to the kitchen.
I'm anxiously awaiting to see Sanaya.
What else is this if not love?
massive moves with Starsight. Make massive moves.
The space race has already started.
Russia had got the first object into space.
The coast is as wild today as it was when Europeans settled the continent.
Enormous beasts with enormous thirst. The teams are primed and ready.
They got the first animal into space, and they got the first person.
Time to see what the boys can do.
Make massive moves with Starsight.
Getting to the heart of the matter is courage. Getting to the heart of the matter is transformation and passion.
Welcome back. The interesting catchphrase that has been crafted during this time of the pandemic is the Great Reset, said by people who actually have, in many cases, been the cause of our desperate and inhospitable state of affairs. So today I'm going to take that concept for ourselves. I want us to take this amazing time to reset our spirits, our minds, our hearts, reset our visions, our willpowers, our resolve, reset our families, our communities, our nations, our world, all for the good. We need to reset our language and our considerations of how to change the world. For if we would boldly activate our inherent strengths, our abilities, our determination, we can truly free ourselves from the mental slavery and the looming fog that we have been in for far too long and begin to see our way clearly. We can become refreshed, rejuvenated, renewed, revived by resetting our language and our ability to make choices that empower our lives. This is what brings me to our discussion today. You know, the word what and the word if are two separate words, but put them together and we have a powerful connection called what if. What if instead of being against slavery, we were for freedom? Instead of being against sickness, we were for health. Instead of being against war, we were for peace. Instead of being against poverty and lack, we were for abundance and wealth. Instead of being against injustice, we were for justice, righteousness, fairness, and integrity. Instead of being against gender-based violence, we were for the safety, security, and well-being of women and children. This way of considering covers all manner of ways of being for understanding, being for kindness, being for liberation, being for compassion, being for transformation, all of which stem from love. This critical conceptual change looks and feels very different from being against, because love is at the core, not fear, not panic, not anger, not blame, but love and peace, which also impacts how we feel, the wellness of our bodies, the stability of our mind, the balance of our emotions. Instead of stress, we can feel empowering freedom and liberation. In approaching solutions in this manner, the consequences are real and have a real impact to reduce shame, blame, guilt. All of that will be put away, hopefully forever, as we discuss the effects and impacts of such concepts as must, should, would have, could have, right or wrong, good or bad, and rather consider the idea of looking at ways of being in the world that best serve us, our vision, and our people, and our world. We must consider committing to this way of thinking if we are going to have any hope of living in a world of well-being, because the universe tells us that we will have what we say. Let's at least let's take a moment to consider what really happens the more we speak of something, whether it's something we want or don't want. But let's talk about the things we don't want. The more we speak of violence, the more violence we see. The more we speak of poverty, the more poverty we see, even in spite of the billions that have been spent on that. The more inequality we speak, the more and more inequality we see and experience. No matter how hard we try or work at it, the more we fight against something or speak these conditions, the more we have them. This is because the universe actually is impartial to us. It will give us what we say. It will produce for us what we think. So how important is this way of thinking, this new language? I believe incredibly important, and will take us to creating sustainable solutions that are life-giving and affirming and will be good for all of us. Now, while we are working on understanding the issues surrounding the many challenges and symptoms we see, earnestly creating innovative solutions to the myriad of these symptoms, we will find that we are not just spending time on the outside, but actually developing ourselves on the inside to explore our perceptions of ourselves, the perceptions of the relationships we have, our relationship with the past, our relationship with one another, our relationship to Mother Earth, and our relationship to the divine higher power, and how we create the relationship to the future. We do recognize that some people started badly. Others had a bad start. But we all find that the lessons learned will thrust us into a victorious, hopeful finish. We will find that we really do have the courage to do all these things we're talking about, as we explore the intentions and the thoughts that led to the decisions that were made in our yesterdays, made by ourselves and made by others, that have gotten us to where we are today. And some of it is in deep hot water. But thinking correctly and speaking powerfully will consider what intentions, thoughts, and decisions can we make now that will make a vast difference for our tomorrows. This all begins, I'm convinced, with what we want, represented by being for something rather than against something, which will go a long way in helping us to design and create the solutions that will be sustainable and supportive of life. I know in a world that seems to have gone mad, that creating solutions by crafting new language that takes us the pathway of love is quite a daunting task, that getting to the heart of the matter is asking of us, but we must answer the call with courage. Moving towards what we want, asking for what we want, making sure that we eliminate what we don't want will take us to the highest good. It's more than just positive thinking. It's positive thinking that takes us to positive planning and preparation and action that will produce a perfect outcome. I know that when we consider the state of the world today with its overwhelming issues, we seem so small and the issues so big. The ocean seems so big and our boat so tiny. We ask, how in the world do we deal with these big, 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 overwhelming issues and the people behind them, and bring them down to bite-sized chunks that each of us can feel very powerful and resolute, that we can really transform our lives and the lives of those around us by each of us just taking care of a small little portion right where we are. I just want to read one little small piece that I was studying today. I want to share with you. I'm just going to read it. This is a book of the words of Martin Luther King. Excuse me. Martin Luther King. Everybody can be great. because anybody can serve. You don't have to have a college degree to serve. You don't have to make your subject and your verb agree to serve. You don't have to know where Plato and Aristotle to serve. You don't have to know Einstein's theory of relativity to serve. You don't have to know the second theory of thermodynamics in physics to serve. You only need a heart full of grace and a soul generated by love. I'll be right back.
Getting to the heart of the matter is courage. Getting to the heart of the matter is transformation and vision.
Make massive moves.
Bible is human and divine.
It's important for us to remember.
And I'm part of God's story.
Yeah, mama, mama, hey.
God is healing you.
God says what he means, and he means what he says.
God is good.
I am very grateful to God. I am healed. Amen.
Make massive moves with Starsight. Make massive moves.
Picture perfect, you don't need no filter.
Another one.
Jerusalem, ikayalami.
Make massive moves with Starsight. Make massive moves.
So from the theater stage to the kitchen.
I'm anxiously awaiting to see Sanaya.
What else is this if not love?
Make massive moves with Starsight. Make massive moves.
The space race has already started.
Russia had got the first object into space.
The coast is as wild today as it was when Europeans settled the continent.
Enormous beasts with enormous thirst. The teens are primed and ready.
They got the first animal into space, and they got the first person.
Time to see what the boys can do.
Make massive moves with Starsight.
Getting to the heart of the matter is courage. Getting to the heart of the matter is transformation and vision.
You know, the great thing about being live is that I feel I'm with you. The worst downside of being alive is when you get a coughing spell, I'm on air. So please forgive me for that little moment of coughing. I'm not sick. I do not have any dis-ease. I just swallowed down the wrong way. I believe I can offer us one way of seeing how we can do, how we can take little chunks of what's going on and have power. You know, I enjoy one of my incarnations is as a biblical scholar. I enjoy the stories of the biblical narratives, not from a religious point of view, which that has value, but more from a historical and relational point of view that has lessons. And there is a lesson in the book of Nehemiah, which you will find in what is erroneously called the Old Testament, but it's really the Hebrew Scriptures. And it is the inspiration that gave me for getting to the heart of the matter and the great possibilities it holds for us to have significant impact on ourselves, our families, our communities, our continent, and our world. The historical information has been recorded like this. The walls of Jerusalem had been burned and broken for more than 70 years after war, death, destruction, and disbursement of the African Hebrews across the African continent. There was so much pain and suffering, confusion, helplessness of people that were taken away. And those that were left in Jerusalem at the aftermath of war in its rubble, so much so that they were lost without hope, direction, or any kind of feeling that life was worth living. And the bigness of fixing the Jerusalem wall was daunting and seemingly impossible to them, because the original walls that needed to be rebuilt was about 1 mile thick, 39 feet high, 8 feet deep, with 12 massive broken doors. To even consider fixing it was out of the question for a frightened, terrified, disillusioned, and broken people who had no materials, no leader, no direction, and no energy for such a task. They seemed hopeless and helpless, kind of like many of us are feeling today. However, many years before this challenge would arise, the God of creation, the God who knows all and sees all and always wants the best for us, even though, to be honest, it doesn't always feel that way sometimes, actually saved the native son and put him in the court of the so-called enemy, making him not only an important servant, but an ally to the king. In the fullness of time, the Creator activates him, this man called Nehemiah. Here we encounter great, focused, compassionate, and brilliant leadership, a most critical ingredient for change, for transformation, for growth and development. In Nehemiah, we come face to face with a man of great humility and deference to the source of his being, who has the power of faith and prayer on his side. Through creative thinking, purposeful planning and preparation, consideration and compassion, a viable, sustainable, innovative solution was crafted that will take into consideration the mental and emotional state of the people who were in Jerusalem. This is one of the greatest benefits of engaging people on the ground, because we get to understand the landscape so as to really be able to meet the needs of the people. And because of that insightful, intuitive plan of Nehemiah, those massive walls that have been decimated and left as a horrifying reminder of Israel's defeat were built by a people who had been marginalized for so long, but now empowered by wisdom and courage in just 52 days. How did they do it? It was a feat, an architectural feat, a building feat that no one could even believe. This is what Nehemiah did. Firstly, through his amazing leadership, he inspired them all to have the same mind to do the work and to be for something. The building of the wall, to provide safety, security, and hope. He gave them a vision for a glorious future in spite of their past, and that is what being for something does. It is forward thinking. It is inspiring. It gives hope in seemingly hopeless situations. Moreover, as an African people in an African setting, they all understood somewhere deep in their spirits the spirit of Ubuntu. We talked about it last week as the golden thread of goodness which connects all life from the lowest creature to the highest. Ubuntu means love and truth, peace and happiness, eternal optimism, inner goodness, and that's what he gave them. Ubuntu is the essence of our human being, the divine spark of goodness that is inherent within each of us. From the beginning of time, the divine principles of Ubuntu have guided African societies. We certainly need it now, teaching us how one intersects with other human beings and nature and the Creator. Nehemiah reminded them of this great gift that was resident within them. Thirdly, each person built where they lived. They had a vested interest in their own healing and well-being as they cared about the area that they lived in. Finally, even though having been defeated and living in despair for so many years, they got the courage to be willing to fight for their freedom. They were taught by Nehemiah to hold a building implement in one hand and their swords in the other hand. You know, that's right up Mama T's alley. It was a plan of building and battling. This is why I love getting to the heart of the matter, because we will be encouraged to do the same, to build and to battle. Taking courage to fight for what we want, speaking about what we want, not what we don't want. And that is where the battling comes, waging a fight in our mind and in our spirit, pulling down strongholds that have held us prisoner, generational bondage, ancestral captivity, and freeing our thoughts, because as we think, so shall we be. I just think that we get a chance to have power that we need. And this story of Nehemiah, I hope you will go, whatever your spiritual direction is, I hope you will go and read it, because it's a historical story and it will help us. I'm going to be right back. The building and the battling.
Getting to the heart of the matter is courage. Getting to the heart of the matter is transformation and passion.
Make massive moves.
Bible is human and divine.
It's important for us to remember.
And I'm part of God's story.
Yeah, mama, hey.
God is healing you.
God says what he means, and he means what he says.
God is good.
I am very grateful to God. I am healed. Amen.
Make massive moves with Starsight. Make massive moves.
Picture perfect, you don't need no filter.
Another one.
Jerusalem.
Getting to the heart of the matter is courage. Getting to the heart of the matter is transformation and passion.
Imagine the building and the battling. What can we do now for what we want to see? So even today, let me start out by saying, right now, where you are, where we are, we can take a lesson from our ancestor Nehemiah. We can actually begin to get what we want by being for the things we really want. We can put into the earth words, concepts, and thoughts that create life and not take life. Of course, we are not going to ignore the reality of what is happening, but we can take the power of how we speak of what is happening. And with that power comes real power. Let me tell you something. At least 50% of the things that happen to us, we don't have any control over. It's somebody else, it's a tsunami, it's a secret virus, it's economics, it's bad politicians. We don't have any control over any of that. But we have 100% control over what we think about it, what we say about it, and what we do about it. Our power to be proactive and to communicate to ourselves, to others, and to our environment what we actually want is so critical and will make all the difference in our outcomes. At the core of communication that produces real sustainable change is getting to allow the truth to guide our movements. Behind many issues that confront us today, they're caused by deception, by lies, by half-truths, by fake news. However, getting to the truth is dangerous. It's a dangerous enterprise, but it's worth the risk because it is the only powerful tool we have that changes lives, that sets those who are captive free, that elevates the mind and gives hope, direction, and meaning to our lives. The intention is to get to the truth that comes without judgment. That's the problem. Sometimes we don't want to deal with it because people are judging us, and we say, you can't judge me. They can't. Truth is necessary to be unaccompanied by guilt or shame or blame. Those are tools of an enemy that wants your life. Let's just have plain, raw truth. Truth in its purest sense. The kind of truth that may be messy at first, but once known, frees the individual to be who they were destined to be. Empowers the family to be the foundational rock of safety and security, and allows society to manifest greatness. So let's look at a couple of examples of what I'm suggesting as we get to the heart of the matter of the power to define and create a life of well-being and goodness. Let's talk about the exercise or the experience of well-being in our lives, in our homes, and in our communities. We can first say that we want to have well-being rather than continuing to discuss the lack in our homes or the crime in our streets. Once we say what we want, ideas will flow. For example, in this case, by taking care of our homes. Clean your house, no matter the size of your space or the shape. Clean in front of your house, even if you live in a not perfect environment. Clean where you live. Clean where you live. Clean where you live. Action. By taking a positive walk in your neighborhood with friends, seeing what's happening. Because with every step taken, you are taking back the community for well-being, so our children can go out to play without the threat of being stolen or shot or harmed in any way. You'll realize that as you walk, you're not only providing a watchful eye, but your health is going to improve as you walk every day. I walk, there's a group called Woman Trek, and they have us walking 30 minutes every day. So every day we're walking and the energy is flowing and the body is going. I know that the current state of neighborhoods is not the most inviting in some cases, and they can be overwhelming and scary. But change is always scary, and positive change is even more so. But we must do it. Let's consider another major issue that affects our well-being in the home. The plague that is upon us, that is I don't even know what I can call violence in the home. But we have the power to eliminate that by what we say and how we respond. Firstly, as hard as it may be, we must eliminate fear. Fear is false evidence appearing real. Not that the fear is not around us, but I can still decide. And that comes, the way I decide, comes with love, comes with my words. Secondly, we need to speak life to our life. We need to speak safety, security into our environment. Once we do that, it opens up the door of our hearts and it gives us an opportunity to consider different ways forward for allowing different choices for our life. This is a big one. We get to consider who we want to be in our lives. Imagine that. What kind of lives we want to experience. Thus, we start right. Because in my experience, things don't end badly. They start badly. And the end is just the inevitability of what started badly. It just caught up with us. We can ensure safety and security for our sons and our daughters as we raise our sons to respect women and our daughters to respect themselves. These ideas are ones I have considered for a while now, but getting to the heart of the matter includes you. So please do share with us your thoughts on how we use the power to define to create the world we want. How can we create sustainable solutions? What have you been against so long with dismal results and now can turn it around by being for what you really want? Gandhi was right when he said, be the change you want to see. Please interact with us on all the social media platforms, as well as our email, which is the I Think box, not the, but I Think box at gettingtotheheartofthematter.online. And you can just send us what you think, how you perceive what I'm talking about, what has happened in your life that if you just tweak the language a little bit, you will find a new path. And what about the production of wealth and abundance as we craft solutions to eliminate poverty and lack? We always have the war against poverty, the war against poverty, the war against poverty. Well, you keep calling poverty, poverty's coming. How about the plan for abundance, the plan for wealth? We can ensure economic development for our communities by creating businesses and then buying from each other. We can create well-run financial institutions by saving together. We can do this, and I just want to say, she's not on camera, but my dear beloved sister, Dr. Denise Beloy, came from exile to help South Africa create an economic parity. We're 20 years in, and I mean, really, it's frustrating. It's frustrating, and not just her. Many others have come to create opportunities. And what happens? They're not in this clique, they're not in this group, they're not. These are the things that cause us to have such massive corruption and graft. And we can eliminate that. How? By doing things right and sharing and getting rid of greed and avarice. By treating those who work for us with respect and compassion and a good paycheck. How could mine workers make, I can't even get the numbers in my brain. Major companies are making billions of dollars, and the people who get the stuff, they are in London or wherever, they down the street, they in Cape Town, wherever. But some man is going down 100 or 200 feet into the ground to get that thing, and you think it's fine to pay him, I don't know, 3,000 Rand a month, 4,000 Rand a month? You think it's fine as Americana to let 80 men share? Really? Really? No. We time out for that. That day has passed. That's why we, as regular citizens, as normal people, need to get involved. It's time out for being uninvolved. It's time out, because there are too many things that we can fix for our economy. There are too many. How do we have so many refugee camps and squatter camps, and right across the street is empty land? Really? No. So these are small little chunks, like building that wall in 52 days. We, the people, need to have a mind to work. We, the people, need to get involved. We, the people, need to use a very important word called no. So let's talk about our health. In order to ensure good health, we need good nutrition. We need healthy food choices. We need to begin to have home gardens so that we control a good part of our food and not be weaponized by GMOs and Terminator seeds. To coin a phrase that propelled President Barack Obama to the presidency of the United States, yes, we can, and yes, we will, if we will allow ourselves to get to the heart of the matter and get busy. As Thomas Sankara, the great visionary, first president of Burkina Faso, and one of my heroes, a champion for women's empowerment and nation building, who was murdered and taken from us far too soon by evil men who stood in the way of progress. He said this: "We will make every effort to see that our actions live up to our words and be vigilant with regards to our behaviors." Yes, we can't ignore that our actions and our behavior, powered by positive words, will have an influence, and it holds the key to our success. I know I reminded you this last week, but it's so important it warrants repeating. We are Africa. We are the foundation of the world. Everything started here. We are the ones who, from the beginning of time, have provided solutions to mankind, innovations, concepts of mathematics, science, agriculture, astrological understanding, economic development, family stability and security, leadership and strategic oversight, spiritual direction to the world. From our lands come oil, gold, diamonds, coltan, cobalt, uranium. From our soil, the best fruits, vegetables, cocoa, coffee, cotton. But unfortunately, once again, too many of us have embraced someone else's narrative about us. We have accepted someone else's mind, which we have thought better than our own. We have all too often been rendered helpless, hapless, passive, and compliant. We must now awaken our spirits because we are indeed a creative, enterprising, intuitive, soulful, warm, and intelligent people. And we have the power to take back our lives. We'll be right back.
Getting to the heart of the matter is courage. Getting to the heart of the matter is transformation and passion.
Make massive moves.
Bible is human and divine.
It's important for us to remember,
and I'm part of God's story.
Yeah, mama, mama, hey.
God is healing you.
God says what he means, and he means what he says.
God is good.
I am very grateful to God. I am healed. Amen.
Make massive moves with Starsight. Make massive moves.
So from the theater stage to the kitchen.
Anxiously awaiting to see Sanaya.
What else is this if not love?
Make massive moves with Starsight. Make massive moves.
Picture perfect, you don't need no filter.
Another one.
Jerusalem, ikayalami.
Make massive moves with Starsight.
Getting to the heart of the matter is courage. Getting to the heart of the matter is transformation and passion.
So yes, we can. I'm coming down to the last quarter of my time. It goes so fast, I really may need 2 hours. This is so funny. We have so many who have come before us who have given us their life, who work diligently to make lasting change, who have left us a way to follow, who gave their very lives so that we would know that we have the power. They left us so much, and we owe them so much. We have artists, playwrights, authors, poets, musicians sharing their deepest thoughts about those issues, even as Bob Marley did and told us about mental slavery, offering us a solution. Many of our prolific creative geniuses have left us massive inspiration, pointing us towards a way out of the mire of man's inhumanity to man, pushing us to abandon greed, avarice, and hubris. We have had visionary statesmen and women who have put forth laws and regulations to help us live in a world of justice, equity, and mercy. We've had liberators who have given their very lives for our freedom. We owe it to our great heroes to transform our financial systems to be fair and just, our economic systems that used to rely on sharing and having all things in common. We need to reform our education systems to inspire and encourage and teach history, historical truth to our young people, giving them a sense of greatness and a renewed sense of self. Our healthcare systems, they need to go back to utilizing our traditional healing methods. Our social interaction in our families, our communities, and our nations. We can do it. Our heroes and sheroes, whose lives were taken too soon as they were given their lives to the cause of freedom, we owe them this. Giants and champions who were assassinated, like Sankara, Lumumba, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, Bob Marley, Stephen Biko, Chris Hani, Ken Saro-Wiwa, who was a Nigerian environmentalist who was executed for his beliefs. He aroused world attention to the plight of the all-rich but poor Ogoni people, and his legacy is still left to be undone. We have so many. Ahmed Tamal, a great anti-apartheid activist. How could we not recognize the greatness that he did when he was detained? We have so many that I could just keep going on and on and on and on about what they gave and how they gave. We have, I guess we just can't ignore. I'm just going to look at my notes because my wonderful, great, and perfect person moving my teleprompter needs to go up. David Webster. We have Amal Cabral, an architectural engineer and genius. I cannot not talk about Tom Mboya, who was assassinated in 1969, who was a popular Kenyan politician, who actually we must thank him because he created a system for Kenyan students to go to America. And because of that, one of those students created Barack Obama. So these men and women have given us so much. They gave us their lives. And many more have died nameless. We have nameless people. We also owe a great deal to Winnie Madikizela Mandela, Marcus Garvey, the Malawian Vera Chirwa. These are people who gave their lives. They weren't assassinated physically, but they were nonetheless murdered through character assassination, torture, and marginalization. We owe it to the thousands who protested on both sides of the Atlantic. We owe it to the 4 little girls in Birmingham, Alabama, who were blown up in a church. We owe it to the young 12-year-old Hector Peterson, who was one of the first to be murdered in the dusty streets of Soweto during the Freedom March of young people. I tell you, we owe it to the slain men of Marikana and their widows and children. Yes, we must honor these sacrificial offerings by working to bring about the changes they lived and died for, by getting to the heart of the matter, and once there, creating solutions that will build a better world for all of us. We owe it to our grandmothers and our grandfathers who kept hope alive for us to be here to keep their dreams alive. Yes, we can, and yes, we must. We owe it to our ancestors who refused to yield to tyranny and thus in every age excelled in spite of the cruelty heaped upon them and the opportunities that were denied them, and yet they prevailed, being the best in everything. You know, I want you to pat yourself wherever you are, black or white. If you have an African feeling, please believe me. Pat yourself on the back, because everything that's been thrown in your way, we've been the best in medicine, in sports, in innovation, in education, in agriculture, in technology, and in creativity. We owe it to the great liberators of Africa, those who built the foundation of our African unity and Pan-Africanism: Haile Selassie, Kwame Nkrumah, Julius Nyerere, Robert Mugabe, Gamal Abdel Nasser, Ahmed Sékou Touré, William Tubman, just to name a few, and the women. And we owe it to those who have been brutalized by police brutality, who have been mistreated and kept on the side. We owe it to the great women. We owe it to the women who have given us so much, the Miriam Makebas, who was the voice of the revolution. We owe it to what is my darling lady, the Dahomey Amazons, the all-female warriors of West Africa, Harriet Tubman, abolitionists, who time and time and time again went back to get slaves, African slaves, that were caught in the American captivity. so many women, so many people, so many. Please check your history. Please look at those who went before us. We owe it to Wangari Maathai, the winner of the Nobel Peace Prize for Innovation in Agriculture. We owe it to Ellen Sirleaf Johnson, the first elected woman in Africa as president of Liberia. We owe our time and talent to Queen Mother, Ya Asante of the Asantes, who beat the British. Oh, there's so many. I don't have time to tell you all of them, but I hope that you will look and research yourself and see what has gone before us, what was laid down before us. And we owe it to ourselves. We owe it to our grandchildren. We owe it to their children that will come. Of course, we owe our energy to change. We owe our energy to restoration and reformation. And there are so many who, as I said, laid down their lives, put their blood in the earth for us to be here. We could do no less. You know, the other day, this morning actually, there's long lines in America for elections. It's a very critical time. And it reminded me of 1994 when we here in South Africa were on long lines for the first time to be elected. And they asked a young man, why was he standing? Because some people have stood out there for 8 hours. We know about that. And he said, it's the least I can do for the lives that were spent so I would have the opportunity to vote. And that's what I'm saying about being for something. These lives that have come have given us the impetus, and we must finish their work. And we can. And we can. So we're almost out of time. I thank you for listening this week. I thank God for the roll call of our ancestors. Next week, we're going to tackle something. We may tackle a little bit of this a little more, but I want you to write us. I want you to get on social media. I want you to write us on the Facebook page. I want you to write our email, which is ithinkbox at gettingtotheheartofthematter.online. Next week, we're going to talk about the choice that women can make. Women's choice. We hear about that a lot. It has a lot of tentacles, and some of it's going to be uncomfortable, but we're going to solve some issues that I believe are deeply rooted in our psychic, in our health, in our mental health as women, which affects our children, which affects our health. And so we're going to unpack next week how women make choices. I love you. I know God loves you. I'm so glad you were here with me. And we're going to close. I think we have time to close hearing Johnny Nash again. I Can See Clearly Now. God bless you. Till next time.